every week, every day, basically. And so being able to kind of share what we're learning, share what we're seeing, I
Mhm.
think it's just going to be good situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's going to be a good situation. And before we even jump into the meat and the potatoes, the content, like I love to give context to our audience on like why we even choose the conversations that we want to have and why we feel like it's important because even as we was chopping it up with Coy a little bit earlier, just it's so relevant, this content funnel that we've been playing around with, the monetization funnel that we've been playing around with, is so relevant for content creators because it maps out how you want to structure your business, how you want to structure your content, how you create the content. It even gives you context and purpose to why you want to create certain types of content, when you want to publish them, and just gives you that overview that you need in your business to be intentional. Would you agree as well?
I completely agree. And like even when we were talking earlier, one of the questions that I asked, I was like, what is the end goal? And I think when you talk about content funnels, that always has to be top of mind, is like, what are you trying to achieve with this content?
Hmm.
I think a lot of people, they're trying to get attention, or like you're trying to get views or more influence, but it's like, where is that influence going? And I think one of the things that we've seen a lot is there's creators that have huge followings, but they're not making any money from that.
Hmm.
So I think just having that end goal top of mind, it makes sure that the work is not going to waste. Like if you're doing content and it's working and you're getting the views and everything and people are resonating with it, it's leading to a goal that you care about. And I think content funnels is kind of how you get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And the people who are doing it really well, they're doing it really well because they're very intentional on how they're doing it, how consistently they're doing it, the messages that they're putting out, the audiences that they're captivating. Everything is strategic. And it's very rare that no, even if the content creator is telling you, oh, it just kind of stumbled on my lap, that may be a little bit of a flex because it's like there has to be some type of intentionality behind that immense success that that creator is having, because these things don't just happen accidentally. And as these platforms and these algorithms are getting much more, um I guess, savvy, for lack of better words, it's getting harder and harder for creators to just kind of come out the gate, throwing haymakers and knockouts, and just being able to make it in this game. This is not that Vine, this is not the Vine generation anymore.
Yeah.
TikTok is a different beast. Instagram is trying to compete with it. Everybody's competing. It's like the TikTokification of social media, what Gary Vee calls it. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
I, I was just gonna say quickly as well, like I've interviewed a bunch of like big creators on my podcast, and it's interesting even having this conversation about content funnels because they
Mhm.
all think this way. They
Mm.
all think strategically about, the funnel, and this type of content is to get attention. This type of content is to nurture the audience. This type of content is to get them to convert to buyers of a product. So everyone that you're seeing who's really on that level, and is really being able to monetize their content, this is how they think. So I think this is going to be a really valuable
Yeah.
session for people.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. And before we even get into the content, we talked about the context. I want to just give y'all that friendly reminder that this is something new that we bring into the podcast, and I want to just try it out. I think it's going to go very well. Me and Callum has been very intentional on how we wanted to structure it, but with the content, with the creators community, we are going to be doing this, live on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So to lock in on that YouTube. If you want to join us via the Discord and have those pre-live and post-live parties with our members, of course, you can hit the link in the description to become a member today. But that's just all the housekeeping that I have for y'all. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen because I just like creating presentations. I'm a visual learner. I don't know about you, Callum, but I like to see things. It makes it easier for me to write my notes down. And speaking of the notes, that means that this is going to be pen and pad flow for y'all. Like, so as you're watching this, as you're listening to me and Callum have this dialogue, I would hope that y'all have y'all notebooks out, pen in hand, ready to take down some notes, because let me tell y'all, this is not something that, we just went off of a whim. Like, this is our business. And, y'all know me because this is, the $1 Million Mind platform, but I gotta give y'all some context. So Callum, before we dive in, tell our listeners about, who you are, your experiences with not just podcasting, but content creation as well, so that our listeners can understand why we both are qualified as not just qualified to have this conversation, but why we make sense to be having this conversation together.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I appreciate it. So obviously my name is Callum, and I'm the host of the Callum Johnson Show. We're a weekly podcast. We interview top entrepreneurs, creators. And to be honest, like, I really started this from ground zero. I was the guy that was just doing like Zoom calls and recording it and posting it as a podcast. 2 years later, we now have like a studio in Manhattan. Everything is recorded professionally. We've got clips that have gone viral, gotten over 1 million views. So yeah, like, I think content creation and media has just really become something that's like my focus, my obsession. And yeah, it's been a great ride. We got our first sponsor earlier on this year, and everything's been growing. So definitely, I think content creation is something, it's not something that you like figure out or solve. You're always learning. But I've very much been on that journey, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. I like to compare content creation, and why I like to compare it to real estate is because all content creation is digital real estate. These pieces of content, whether it's long form, short form content, these are assets that live on the web forever. Even when you delete it, by the time you deleted it, there's some type of profile channel bot that has already shared and has their version of your content out there on the web as well. So it's like, when you look at digital real estate and when you look at regular real estate, like you said, it's not something that you just kind of stumble into. It's something that you have to be intentional on learning. It's a game of life. The monopoly is based on real estate. So it's like, you have to really be intentional on what your strategy is going to be. Stick to that strategy. Some games is not going to be pretty, but some games you might run off and be the last one standing on the board. And it's like that with content creation, that digital real estate. So going into what funnels are, because we're talking about the content monetization funnel. And before we can even go into the content monetization part of the funnel, we just got to understand generally what funnels are. And funnels have a purpose. And the purpose of the funnels versus how marketers are using funnels, it's a little bit different, right? So I got to ask you guys a question. And Colin, you feel free to answer this question as well. Like, how would you be surprised if I told you that you are currently inside of at least one person's funnel as we speak?
Bro, more than one person.
More than one, like easily, probably a handful right now. And it could be off of just the fact that you clicked that link from that ad, you sent that person a DM, you downloaded that free playbook. You are in somebody's funnel, whether they're actively pursuing you right now or not. You are in a funnel, whether you want to believe it or not. That's just the simple truth of it. And that's how marketers are using it. And how you guys want to use your funnels as you create it, and how we all use our funnels, is by identifying the target audience. And this is something we spoke about pre-live as well. With Coy, was just like identifying that avatar, being very intentional on defining this ideal customer demographic, for your products and for your services. Because you elaborated a lot better than I did, Callum, that statistic about the favors, like the person that's more likely to do a favor for you. Share that with those that are tuning in live.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I had a guest, Aaron Samuels, actually on my podcast a week ago. Both of his parents are clinical psychologists. And there's this study he was telling me about where basically what they found was that if someone has done a favor for you once, they are more likely to do it again. And psychologically, the reason why is you're the type of person, once they've done the favor for you, they categorize you in their brain as the sort of person they do favors for, which means that in any future appearance, if you ask them to do you a favor, it's a lot more likely that they're going to do it again. And it's similar in marketing, right? Marketing is all about using human psychology to achieve a certain outcome.
Oh, so for you, what have been some exercises before you started the Callum Johnson show? What were some exercises that you personally followed to like identify who your target audience or avatar was going to be?
There's a lot of different ways to do it. I think for me personally, and a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've spoken with on my show have said a similar thing, which is they almost started out as the customer for their business. So they even took themselves as like an avatar and what they're into and thought, what would that sort of person like to see? Or even if I think about myself from 2 years ago, what lessons would I have wanted to know that I now know? So I think that was very much my process. It's kind of taking someone who's in my maybe a bit further back in terms of where they're at in life and like making content that they would have loved. But I think there's a bunch of ways to do it. I was talking to someone, and I'll hand it back to you in a second, Kai. I was talking to someone earlier this week. He has a YouTube channel right now that's blowing up. And he was telling me how intentional they are in terms of doing their research on like what is trending on YouTube, what videos are like outperforming, where the creator has like a small following, but they have videos that have blown up. They'll pay attention to those. And so I think you can start to get a sense of like what people want and who that ideal customer can be in a lot of different ways. But those are two of them.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And I think that's kind of like where I was with my journey, because my show didn't start out with video. Like I mentioned to you, like I started my show as a way to review, like a book review. Like I just had published my own book and I just started, podcasting with a mic off of my laptop just to kind of go a little bit deeper into my chapters, into the lessons that I wrote in my book and why I wrote the book, just so people could get to know me better as an author. And this is kind of goes back to what I said, like when people say this kind of like accidentally happened to them, there's a level of cap to it, because even though I accidentally grew my podcast the way I did, it still wasn't fully accidental. Like there was still a level of intention. I had to intentionally pay attention to the trends. I had to ask questions. I did polls and surveys to learn my audience a little bit better so I can hone in on the messaging that I wanted to do and wanted to give, and the guests that I wanted to have on the show. So even not knowing in the beginning of the process, I am where I am right now because of the intention that was applied later on down the line. And there are some things that I wish I'd done differently when I started this show versus now. But then I'm also appreciative of the journey that I've been on, because I'm able to see the mistakes that I've made and be able to speak on it. Right. Like those times that I was just, oh, it's time to record an episode. Let me record this episode, Sunday night and put it out Monday, for Monday morning, and not really thinking about the long term effect of that message that was being put out. And those have been some of the worst episodes, right? Those have been the episodes that had no reach because there was no intention behind it. So when we talk about this target audience, and I like to call them the avatar, and we're not talking about those blue people or even the little bald kid with the arrow on his head. We're talking about like a guest profile, a audience profile, and I like to be very specific with who my avatar is. And Callum, you let me know if you have an avatar for your podcast. But when I think of an avatar for my podcast, I know this person's name, their occupation, how recently they graduated from school, if they went to school, where they like to hang out, their friend group, what type of music they listen to. Like this is how specific I get now when it comes to trying to identify a target audience or an ideal customer demographic, because if you aim small, you miss small.
Yeah, you know one thing, and I love that you mentioned that, Kai. And it's so true, right? Those creators that you see that have those massive followings, they really understand who the target audience is and who their core consumer is. You'll hear people talk about that, like this is my core audience. They really know who that person is. But I think one thing that it would just be wrong if I didn't mention, it's kind of a process to get there, is what I found. It's like being able to know your target audience in such a level of specificity where you know how old they are, where they grew up, what their experiences are, what communities they're a part of. It's a process to get there. And I think one thing that I've seen firsthand and just in conversation is a lot of people use the target audience almost as like a form of procrastination. I don't know if you've seen this as well, Kai, where like it stops them starting to publish content because they're like thinking or strategizing who the target should be and they don't know. And I experienced that. Like when I started out, I was like, I don't know who would listen to my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just important to start publishing the content. And then from there, you can see who responds. And then it becomes clearer who the target customer should be.
Right.
And so I want to give that reassurance to people that are listening. Like you might not know them from day one exactly who your target customer is, but you keep posting and you see who's responding and who's resonating and who's in your DMs messaging you that they love your shit. You're gonna start to realize like, oh, this is my core audience.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's just like the same thing with riding a bike, right? It's like you don't learn to ride a bike by not getting on the bike and it not moving, just staying in place. And it's also like raising a child. Is like you want your child to learn who they are by doing the things they want to do. Most children don't learn who they are when their parents are hovering over them, telling them what to do every moment of their life. They have to learn these things by just doing and just being who they are. So to your point, Callum, is like when you let your platform just grow and do what it does and just kind of be in that moment, you just have to have that lens to just open your eyes and just pay attention to who's commenting, who's showing love, who's sharing, and then take a deeper dive. It's kind of like almost stalking. Like when somebody when somebody share, because now with Instagram, you can see when people share your reels, right? Like you get that. Do you see that at the top of your notifications when somebody shares your reel? You can see who shared it.
Oh yeah, like mentions it, yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned you, right? So it's like you can now go to that person's profile and kind of look and see what type of person they are.
It's a good
And
one.
it's like now you're slowly building out an audience profile. If these people, because these people might have the same style, they might be from the same city, they might go to the same clubs or go to the same museums, parks, whatever it might be, right? They might share certain things in common, and you're able to pick that apart from those activities.
I think also one thing that I've started doing, because I would have it with the podcast where people were like, oh, I loved that episode, or that was a great interview, or I really resonated with what you said. And before I just used to be like, oh, like thanks, or like I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Now I'm like, what did you like about it? I'll ask, like it's like the start of a conversation. Like I want to know exactly what is it about what I'm doing that the audience is resonating with. And I think just getting into those deeper conversations, like if people are commenting on your stuff and enjoying it, try and get in the DMs and see like what did they like about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So let's transition into like the channels. I came up with, just from my strategies and how I'm pushing out my content and how I'm engaging with my audience, I'm identifying these as the top 3 channels to focus on. You got social media, of course, you got email marketing, and then I circled long form content because that's the gold that makes this whole thing a little bit easier. you know, as a content creator and as long form content creators, Callum, I'm sure you can agree, like, it's way easier for you to be consistent with posting and engaging an audience with long form content versus if you was to record a whole bunch of reels.
Hmm. I think the cool thing about long form content is long form content can become short form content.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like if you get the long form content handled and the long form content is good, you can cut that up. You can do a bunch of things with that so that it's effective short form content.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then it's like, and then that goes right into, it feeds this kind of in essence it is leading us to the funnel, right? You got the long form content. You said you focus on the integrity of your long form content. It feeds right into the social media, right? It's like now you have good clips that you can chop up, feed to your social medias like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, etc. What about email marketing? Are you leveraging email marketing as well? I know you are like kind of heavy on Twitter. You heavily on Twitter more than me, and then I would like to, but are you like leveraging email marketing as well with promoting your episodes and stuff like that?
I am not, but it's one of those things that like I'm looking at that, and that is the next place where like if we were going to make a big push, it would be through doing a newsletter. Uh,
Mm,
and for anyone that has like a podcast or is doing any form of long form content, it is so easy. And maybe even there's probably a session we can do on this.
yeah.
There's literally AI programs where you put your podcast in and it will write a newsletter for you based on that podcast episode. And so, like, I think it's the easiest it's been to repurpose a podcast or any form of long form content into email marketing to start building up that email list. There's literally so many ways that you can do it. And yeah, it's something that, you know, if you really want to build a big channel, even with long form, like it's a place you should definitely go.
Yeah, we might need to have like an episode going over like the different, because I had this conversation a while back, like on remember we had the conversation about ChatGPT,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but like since then there have been like tons of other AI tools that I have used and tested out that I now find stronger than ChatGPT is even now. Like there's this one called Open no damn, I think it's called Copy AI,
Mm.
and it allows you to put what you would like your brand voice to be, and then once you save that brand voice template, anytime you create, like, you can create newsletters, email scripts, social media posts, and it will like save what your brand voice template is so that it spits this stuff out already in your brand voice, unlike ChatGPT where you got to say, you know, put it in this type of voice and, you know, come from the perspective of a young black creator from this area, right? Because that's what my prompts used to look like with ChatGPT. But now with Copy AI, you can tell this software to remember that, and it will give you that feedback. So when it comes to like you putting out these episodes, and when you build out your email list, it's like now you don't even have to do the hard work of writing the email marketing copy. It's like you just you record the content, copy the link, put it in copy AI, and then now you have an email that you can blast out to your email list to remind them to go, you know, look at the video, comment, share, engage, however.
Yeah, and you know what? Just I know this isn't the AI episode,
Yeah.
but just my quick thing on AI because I see people like they ask about it and they're curious. Um, I think for me personally, AI is part of the workflow. It is not the workflow.
Right.
So, for example, like if I was going to do a newsletter, I know I mentioned that there's programs where you can literally put it in and AI will write the newsletter for you. That would not be the newsletter that I publish, but it
Mm.
would probably be close to like a draft one. And then we would make it better and iterate. And so that's what I mean. I think even for you, Kai, AI is like a great tool at the moment that you can use to be more productive, effective with putting out your content. It is not the content creator
Yeah.
itself.
Nah. Nah, and I know people that are using it as the content creator itself, and you can tell because there it still does miss that um that that soul, right? Like it's something about it. It's still missing something that you could tell when somebody just kind of either they took it from AI or they literally took somebody else's post and tried to make it their own, but they're not really uh knowledgeable in that area. So it seems one dimensional and bland.
Mm.
You know,
100%.
it's missing that seasoning or something. Something's
Yeah.
missing from it. So going into the funnel, right? So we take our channels, and each of these things can be broken down and disseminated into what the funnel is. And the funnel is meant to, just like you got the funnel when you pouring the liquid into your, your engine or whatever you might use a funnel for. It's like to just capture the big amount and funnel it down into a small amount so it can fit in a very tight space, right? And that's exactly why we use these funnels, because you have at the top, you got your lead generator. Like the lead generator could be shoot, podcast episodes. Your lead generator could be like a free playbook. It could be some type of downloadable resources you want to offer to people. It could be an ebook, right? It could be a whole bunch of different things that you might want to offer just to get people, just to give value so people know that you legit. That's the whole point of a lead generator. Then after that, you got your first upsell. You got your first product that is going to be like the pro version of the free version, right? It's like, okay, you got this content playbook. We're gonna offer you a 30-day trial for half off to get clips made for you, right? That's like the first upsell. Then you got your downsell, which is genius, right? The people who created this process, and I first learned about the process of funnels was through ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, right? The whole point of the downsell is to create a like a don't miss out type of vibe with the upsell, right? So let's say they don't bite on the first time you say, okay, or you could get this, add this to your free product. If they don't bite on it, you bring it back up and you offer them a discount on it. That's what the downsell is. And then finally, after that, now you have your high ticket offer, which could be literally anything. Like the beauty about humans is that we have our own minds, we have our own brands, we have our own experiences, and with this ownness, this originality, we are able to create in literally an abundance of opportunities, offers, products, and services, right? Right. It's like what you might have, Callum, even though it might be similar to what I have, and we talked about this when we first met. It's like when we first chopped it was like, oh, it's so crazy that your podcast is very similar to mine as far as like the audience, the purpose, the vibes a little bit, but it still is different because you're the host and I'm the host. It's like, so the people that really resonate with Callum may dislike Kai for whatever reason, and vice versa. And it's like, even if they don't dislike, they just really like yours a lot better because of who you are, the experiences that you have. So we got to take our offers into that same consideration and realize that, yeah, those guys did it over there, but I have the stuff to be able to do it over here, and create my own high ticket offer. So let's break that down a little bit more, Callum, man. You can feel free to interject at any time if you have something you want to add too.
Yeah, just one thing, Kai. I know that we spoke earlier. I spoke about the study where basically if someone purchases from you once, they're more likely to purchase from you again.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, even as you're talking through that funnel, it's like you can see that insight in action, right? Which is like the lead generator. Oh, I bought your $5 ebook. And then it's like the upsell. Oh, you have like a $50, $100 offer. Oh, I'll do that. Or you have a downsell. You have a $20 offer I can do. Oh, I'll do that. And then it's the high ticket. And you can see that at each stage, it's building that investment. It's building that rapport with the customer. And so, once you, and obviously everyone that does the lead generator is not necessarily going to do your high ticket.
Right.
But it's just a nice funnel rather than out of the gate, I don't know, asking for someone for like 10 grand or 10K to buy something, right?
And that's the whole point of it, bro. I'm glad you said that, because this following a funnel will allow content creators to not jump straight to the hot seat. It's like you see people out here in your DMs and they off rip offering you to sit on a Zoom call so that they can sell you on some $20,000 offer. When it's like all you have to do is just create very valuable content, have a nice lead generator, and the work does itself, right? The work, the content and the intention, it works itself out, where you start to have people go down this funnel. And when you get people obviously towards the bottom of the funnel, they're more niched, they're more relatable to you and your offer, obviously, right? Because like you said, not everybody who is elite, who enters in that lead at the lead generator phase, is even meant to do business with you at the high ticket phase. You don't even, that's the whole point of it, is also for you to funnel out and weed out who's going to be your ideal client. Because the people who get in at the lead gen, they're not your ideal client. When you identify, when we go back to all the way over here, this target audience, this is the person who will find themselves at the high ticket offer. That's the point of it. So it's like this allows us to weed out who's not our ideal client, so that we're working with people who we are most that we mesh well with, that are going to put in the work and get the results that we intend to get, for our clients, XYZ. So let's break it down in more specifics on what this might look like for you all as content creators. At the top of your funnel, you have your main content. And I talked about this. This could be, your podcast, your vlogs, if you're doing dance videos, if you're doing trends, skits, whatever you are making a lot of as your main content, that is your lead gen. That is how you get your followers. That is how you engage with your audience. That's how you get likes, shares, subscribers. That is the lead gen, right? Your main content. And then you get more niche down. This is where you start to go back into what your first upsell might be, your super niche content. You might offer, some type of with the super niche, you might offer some type of live like we're doing, right? This is technically super niche because what the MDM podcast is like, we talk about e-com, we talk about real estate, we talk about funding, we talk about all kinds of business industries, to where this live every week is dedicated solely for content creation. So like this is where you get to your super niche content, and you want to identify, from your main content, what's one thing that you can really focus on and enjoy focusing on that one thing every time, for your upsell. And then right after that, you go into your breadcrumbs. Your breadcrumbs are like those little reminders on, where people can find your gold. So you got your clips. Clips are those little reminders and tell people where they can find your long form content on YouTube, most likely. You got giveaways, you got promotions, you got sweepstakes, you got all different types of breadcrumbs that continue to give value to people and then direct them to where you want them to go. And the more people follow these steps, when they go from your main content to your niche content to, going and showing love on your breadcrumbs, maybe going in, doing the steps that it might take to do that giveaway, they're showing themselves as your ideal client. It's like the kid in the class, like the gym class hero. It's like the person that is like, hey, look at me. You said do this. Well, I did this. I already did it. I already did it. Like they want to be seen by you. So that is the person that is identifying themselves to you as your ideal client. And then lastly, at the bottom of this funnel, you have your community. And the reason why I have the community at the bottom, though the community is technically not the high ticket offer, I like to put community at the bottom, because if you focus on nurturing a community and building an occult following of super fans, and by the way, we're currently reading the book Essentialism. And next month, I want us to start reading together the book Creating Superfans, um, because it speaks to how you can nurture this community, because it's inside the community that you pitch this high ticket offer to, right? Like, going back to what Callum said, is like, not, starting off the gate, offering a $20,000 package. It's like, who do you think is going to be easier to pitch a $20,000 offer to? The person that just watched your vlog at the top, or the person that's been in your community for 4 weeks, getting value, game, nurturing, each and every week or each and every day, whatever the cadence is. Like, you most likely going to sell all those high ticket offers to the people that are in your community. So for content creators, I like to say, focus on building a community around you, because then you can make all your bank off of just selling your offers to your community, and you provide some type of exclusivity when you do it that way. When no one else has access to certain offers except the people that are in your community, you're creating that exclusivity. So we got some community guidelines that I want to speak on, because this is so important. At the bottom, you have the community. But before I speak on that, Callum, did you want to add to anything? You kind of following where I'm at?
Yeah, I got you. Just one thing I'll add, because and you even spoke about essentialism, which is interesting. It's a book that I want to read, but I'm a big believer in just making things simple. I think that a lot of the times we overcomplicate,
Mm-hmm.
and people have a lot of questions, obviously, about content. And I think one of the things that I always keep in mind is, like, at the end of the day, we're just trying to build relationships, right? Like, we're just trying to build trust. And all content is about is just building trust on the internet. But even if you think about it in real life, like, who are you more likely? Most people are more likely to do a favor or buy something from their friend versus a complete stranger on the internet, like, versus a complete stranger.
Mm.
And so even with the funnel that Kai's showing, that's basically showing you, how do you go from someone not knowing who you are to actually feeling and having a personal connection with you and having that trust. And then once you have that trust built, then there's a bunch of different ways that you can take that to reach the end goal that you have in mind. But it's a really important. And the thing is, and this even brings it back to AI. One of my kind of theories is, there's going to be, with things like AI, there's going to be a lot more content on the internet. And so the people that are really going to be the best creators, the most profitable creators, that can make a living from it, they're going to be the people that build the best relationships with their audience. So when Kai talks about super fans, when he talks about knowing your core audience, like, that is going to become even more important as time goes on and as more people are posting content.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. And I want people to, like, not just take what you said, Callum, and let it go through one ear and out the other. Like, really take heed to that, because I think we're in this stage right now where everyone sees other people getting to that money on social media, and we want to skip we want to skip steps because we don't see what their steps are. And
Mm.
I think what this does is it exposes what those steps are that every single, I would say pretty much 99% of these content creators are using.
Mm-hmm.
And it exposes those steps so people don't skip those steps when they try to duplicate or emulate that, because a lot of people see one person pop up out the woodworks, and now they, got 100,000 followers on TikTok, and they making, a couple grand a month, with their content, and they just go right into creating content and trying to, like, force sponsored ads and force brand deals and force these product reviews and force all this stuff that just now it seems ingenuine, because you don't understand the funnel, you don't understand the process.
And just one also thing to add, and I want to just make it even what you were saying around, we don't want it to go in one ear and out the other. I just want to make it so real for people. Is one of the podcasts I've been getting really into is $1 million worth of game.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do like a ridiculously good job. Gillian Wallow, and I was watching some of Wallow's like early content. This shit is like great. Like, and this is what I mean when we talk about like not skipping steps, is when this guy was first recording content, it's like kind of grainy, it's not perfect, the background is kind of messed up.
Mm-hmm.
He is in there in the trenches recording, figuring out what his audience resonates with, figuring out what is his main content. Then he partners with his cousin Gilly. They start doing the podcast, which is like, I guess, a bit more niche, and also like it's nurturing people through that funnel. I see them always partnering with businesses and promoting them on their podcast. Like, these guys really figured it out. Like, no steps were skipped. Like, they did it for real. And so I think the thing is, anyone that you see, that you look at and you feel like you have a relationship with them, any creator, they have not skipped steps. They've been the person that's recording on some old iPhone, in their bedroom, with like only a few people watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, they scaled that and they kept building, and they took insights and learnings from their audience and funneled that back into the content and figured out content funnels and figured out what their offer should be. They did not skip any steps. And so if that's kind of where you're looking to be, Kai's is giving you the blueprint and the formula, but like you gotta attach a bunch of action on that formula.
Oh, facts. 1000%, 1000%. And let's actually get into that action too, because that first step, these are more sort of actions that I want people to focus on when we go back into highlighting that community. So let's talk about those actions, right? Number one is like, you want to be identifying how you can treat every single one of your members like they're gold, because they are. Like, you want to make them feel validated. You want to make everyone who has entered your realm into your community, you want to give them an identity that they cherish. You want to make them feel validated. You want to make them feel heard. You want to make them feel appreciated. You want to make them feel like they have a say. And these are all principles that I've even gotten out of our reading. I read this book that I'm recommending that we read next month, Super Fans. Like, I read that with my team in one of my other spaces, and it was like a huge eye opener, because like, dang, sometimes once we even get there, we take the community for granted. It's like, you want to value that community like your family. Like, this is your second family. And then two, once you have that, you want to focus on building the story that you want your members to tell about you. Right? I'm gonna say that again. You want to focus on the story that you want your members to tell about you. So when they leave the home, let's say your community is the home, when they leave the home to go about, their day that is unrelated to the time they spend with you, what do you want the story to be about you that they tell to other people? Right? Is it going to be a good one? Is it going to be a bad one? Is it going to be a great one? Is it going to be one that when they tell this story, the person that they told it to was like, yo, why you ain't tell me about this sooner? Where can I sign up to be a part of this community? It's like, that's the story you want them telling. And then the third one is, you want to create offers that specifically service your community and focus on, and again, like I said, focus on your exclusivity. Right? So it's like, now, once you have this super niche community of members that have similarities, have differences, have voices, have opinions, you should be leveraging all of that. So as your community grows, you're getting like this overview of who this avatar is, who these people are, and you're creating services and offers that speak to them. Like, for real, forget about everybody else. You just keep making the funnel, keep making the lead gen, keep crafting the conversation, keep the doors open for people to identify the community. But once you establish the community, like, put all your focus on cultivating nurturing, and just pampering the community. Because when you have a community that is confident and comfortable with who you are, where they stand with you, knowing that they are heard, when they got some feedback, you're going to take it and, run with it. It's like, dude, you got something that is like impenetrable. Like, can't nobody break this down. So we're going to transition over here. We got a competitor analysis. This is like something I don't want to spend too much time on, but I just felt the need to share it, which is just more so like doing your homework again. We kind of already spoken about this. It's just like watching other people that are currently doing the things that you would like to, do, that are in the spaces that you want to be in, that are doing these things really well, and then just emulate them, while still maintaining and continuing your own personal brand, right? So when we spoke about like Wallow and Gilly, it's like, if you really like that brand, it's like, see where they were from day one to where they are now, look at those steps and duplicate those steps, but still just make sure you have your brand voice attached to the output of those steps, right? Just like how we talked about copy AI, is like you get to leverage the steps that the AI tool gives you, but the most important part is making sure that it understands what your brand voice is, because you still need to have and maintain that originality. And then we got some promotions over here that you want to, every once in a while throw into your community. These are just some things that you don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do all at once. These aren't even things that you have to do every single day or every single week, but just wanted to throw that out there and just bug it in y'all ears. These are different promotions to help you grow and nurture that community. You have giveaways, you have discounts, contests, sweepstakes, free trials, and then one of my favorites are the affiliate commissions. Offering affiliate commissions is a great way to say thank you to your members while growing your community at the same time, right? Like having an affiliate program, a referral program that rewards your members with some cash, right? Like actual money. Don't give them like a discount to a product. Don't give them a in-store coupon code. Like, give them actual cash for their referral, for their affiliation with your community, right? So I love commissions. I love giving back. I'm always, first to say, hey, if you bring in 5, I'll make sure I pay you for at least like, 2 or 3 of them. We, of course, the community still got to make sure that it can sustain itself, but I'm super generous when it comes to, our affiliate commissions. And as we wrapping this up, before we conclude, Callum, share any last thoughts you might have, or some takeaways you really want, the creators that are listening to, walk away from all of this.
Yeah, no, I was gonna jump in because I was like, I think maybe even the most important thing that we said this entire conversation was treat the members of your community like gold.
Mm.
And like, you know what? I even had to, not like I'm trying to sound crazy, but I even had to kind of like have a conversation with myself, because sometimes you put out content and you'll look at the analytics or the views or whatever, and you'll be a bit like discouraged. You'll be like, this didn't perform how I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost had to reframe it in my mind, because I was like a few hundred people watched your shit this week. Like, do you know how crazy that is? Like, the amount of content that is on the internet that someone could watch and give their time to, or the number of communities and groups and Discord servers and group chats and Facebook groups that someone could be a part of, and they chose yours. I'm like, that is crazy. And you know what? It's interesting. I heard DJ Academics actually say this. He said when he was trying to get big as a content creator and like build his audience, whatever, he said the most difficult thing to do was get people to care about him. Like he's had the charisma, he had the jokes, he had the funny takes, whatever, but people just didn't care about him. So if there are people on the internet right now who care enough to watch your content, to be a part of your community, to buy one of your products, that person should be treated like gold.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm not just getting up on a high horse and saying that, because I've had moments where I've become disillusioned and been like, oh, I'm not getting what I should be like. But nah, like those people that did watch, those people that did tune in, those people that did sign up, treat those people like gold, because they will pay you back 10 times more.
Yeah. And it's like you are going about it from an angle of gratitude too. It's just like you said, you could have easily been hung up on like, oh man, I just spent an hour and a half recording this content and it got X amount of likes, and I thought this was going to go crazy. I thought it was going to turn up, but then you look and it was like, nah. Out of all, like you said, out of the billion data points that live on the internet, they stumbled across mine, and not just stumbled across it, but clicked it and watched it. That shit right there be something to just be grateful for, right? You know, as a content creators, like this is what we do it for. We do it, we create the content, you know, not just for ourselves, but most of us are creating content for a big you know, for a reason that's bigger than us, which is to, you know, impact somebody else in some form of fashion. And when they clicked that video and they watched it, you left the imprint on them some way. And I think we just need to be more grateful as we are going about this whole process, and not, you know, being hung up on, you know, the little things like, oh, I didn't get the views that I wanted to get this time around, or I didn't get the amount of shares that I wanted to get. You know, nobody is commenting, you know. And let's not think about the scarcity. Let's always look at the abundance. And so, you know, I think where I want us to just kind of look at the purpose and again of this conversation out of getting everything is, like you said, Callum, treating the community members like gold, but also just understanding that your purpose of creating your funnel is to just guide your avatar through a decision making process, or what I like to better call through an experience. How do you want them to experience you from A to Z? Just tailoring out what that map looked like. You know, think about yourself as a theme park. What do you want? Like, theme parks are designed strategically the way they are, right? It's like they strategically put the food and concessions where they do because they know psychologically this is eventually where they're going to end up because of how the map of the amusement park is. We have to consider ourselves the theme park, and we just have to be strategic on the experience that we want to give to our avatar and to our listeners as they are transitioning through wherever they are in their process, and where we want them to be by the time they leave, leave our guidance. So I think that's where I want to conclude. Again, you know, for you all, before we head out, you know, I do want to let y'all know we have that post live party that we're getting ready to have on Zoom with the rest of our members. So if you aren't already, make sure you become a pro creator and join the community below, so that you can join us not only on those Zooms for those live Q&As, but, you know, also we talking about events that we could potentially be doing in the future, some collaboration ideas, and just resources. And, you know, that of course we have the member chat as well through Discord. But before we go, Callum, again, last words, anything you want to share with our listeners before we head on out?
Nah, man, it's been a pleasure being on here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you picked up something that was valuable. I kind of wanted to I had a creator come on my podcast, the Callum Johnson Show, a few weeks ago. Has over 500,000 followers right now on Instagram. And he told me something that's kind of stuck with me ever since. And he called it the 1% rule. And basically he said that, you know, when he started out, his content was so simple, but the way that he got from 0 to 500, and I think it's 20,000 right now, is every time he released a piece of content, he would just try and improve one thing on that piece of content by 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that hundreds, thousands of times. And now he's a creator that makes a full-time living, that has his own book, that has sponsorship, all of these things. And so, and I think Kai even mentioned it, which is like, eliminate the analysis paralysis, where you're looking at your favorite creator and you're thinking, how do I make that? How do I get those views? All of this stuff. Just focus on what you can create today And then the next time, how can I just make it 1% better? And if you can follow that process and stick to it and commit to it, you will get to the places that you want to.
Hey, I'm just trying to get 1% better every day because I deserve it, man. You spit in the day, Callum, and it's like you right, man. I don't have to have it all figured out. Like I don't have to hit a home run every single time I'm at bat. It's like I just got to get a little base hit. I just got to knock my teammate that's in on third. I just got to knock him in home. I don't have to swing for the fences every single time. So with that being said, I'm gonna close it out, man. I appreciate y'all for joining us for our first official live. Hope to see y'all again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Ishikai Speaks. Callum, you let them know where they can find you at as well.
Yeah, so it's Callum Johnson Show on YouTube. Check it out. Callum Johnson on Instagram, all that good stuff. It's been a pleasure, man. I'm glad we could do it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing y'all next week. We are out. And if you are a member, make sure y'all stay on that Zoom so that we can see y'all in this post live party. Let's get it.
Peace.
All right. So I think we off of live.